I think you've touched on some very important points there, particularly with regards to like the failures that we've seen in the modern banking system, and I think that's been known and felt by a lot of people around the country. Another thing that you mentioned early on was talking about interest and how that is literally ingrained into every aspect of our lives, whether we want to be a part of it or not. And this is the main part of our conversation that we're having today, is whether it's possible for us to be able to conduct our day-to-day transactions in a way that is compliant with the Islamic Sharia on these sort of things, that whilst we may not be specifically going into an interest-bearing loan, we will be taking out a product which could render ourselves liable to interest. And if we draw that against something like a contract where you would be obliged to purchase alcohol, for instance, we would point blank refuse to enter into such an agreement if there was an off chance that we would be forced to acquire alcohol. Yet in our day-to-day transactions, we could be entering into various agreements where we're likely to incur interest.
So interest is one of those things that it traps people within it. When a debt is created and it has to be paid back plus the applicable amounts of interest, it builds capital upon capital for the person who's in debt. Or the recipient of the money essentially is free to pull out of that transaction at any time they feel, and that can put people into even more severe debt, acute debt, into crisis. So yeah, the debt-based system is destroying a lot of livelihood.
And so we have this situation where we've got the banks wanting to keep you in debt and you wanting to get out, and this is leading to like a permanent conflict. And is that the best way to conduct transactions? And I think you've given us some examples there within the history of it, how the Islamic system could lead us to a more beneficial collaborative society where we could help each other in a collaborative way.
And that's kind of the third and final point, is whenever we make an investment as Muslims, we have to look at it from an intention perspective. If we are looking to lend something to someone to make profit from capital, so for example, if I loan Dominic money and I'm looking to make interest on it, that's wrong. But if I lend Dominic money for the sake of investing in a business that I know that there's risk there, then that is absolutely fine, because I know that capital will grow, and once that investment has paid itself off, Dominic can return the equivalent capital to me with the rate of increase within that investment that he's made.
As Muslims ourselves, we should not be too hung up about whether a transaction is termed Islamic Finance or whether it has been given Sharia approval or not. The basis for whether we can determine if a product is halal or engaging in a certain trade is halal will always come from the principles provided to us through the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Hadith. Mentioned in the Quran twice that Allah declares war on people who engage in riba and those who declare war on the awliya. Now, there's no mention of Allah declaring war on people who miss the salah or fail to pay zakat. Obviously, there are repercussions for people who fail to do so, but there's no mention of war against them. So we should use this as a measure of the seriousness of engaging in the riba. Subhanallah, Allahu A'lam, we know that the reward for avoiding these riba-based transactions will be greater. And if we think that taking this route to ultimately provide us with an education so we can sort of obtain a degree and generate a high level of income to pay it off, then the end doesn't justify the means, because we'll be taking a haram route to lead to a qualification where we think we'll be generating higher income. But obviously that power is in Allah's hands. That's completely written. We cannot be judged by the situations we are in. We can only be judged by how we react to those situations. So the situation we're in at the moment is an economic challenge. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that every nation will be faced with a fitna, and the trial of his nation will be the trial of...
So we're seeing something that, yes, the government are acknowledging that this could be an issue and hoping to put in place some alternative finance, but this is a few years down the line, and it's only something available to postgraduates, so it doesn't solve the initial problem, which is trying to find the £9,000 a year to fund the...
I think it's important to add as well that Muslims add so much to the British economy. The figures are enormous. In terms of charitable giving, we're the most generous religious group in the UK. It's something like £360 per person in the UK. Also with regards to kind of financial clout, the City of London, kind of in terms of some of the biggest buildings, football clubs, etc., are owned by kind of Islamic or Muslims themselves. So there's a lot of kind of push within that sector to get these kinds of products out there for the Muslim community.
In the studio, who's a local entrepreneur and businessman, and we just want to move the show towards looking at how the Islamic finance affects businesses on a real grassroots level.
The issue that in those days there was no alternative. There was nothing available which was called Islamic finance. And even when you study, like the brother said, even when you study some of the Islamic finances titled products that are available through the banks or the high street lenders, they're not actually Islamic. Majority of them are not Islamic, even though they call themselves or deem themselves, the terminology they use is Islamic finance. SubhanAllah, a lot of them are based on LIBOR and a lot of them are based on riba anyway. So the whole thing hinges on the fundamentals of whether it's riba or not. It's not. You can't simply call it Islamic finance and automatically it's halal. It doesn't, like the brother said, you can't start something halal with something which is haram. It just wouldn't work. You would definitely be misdirected into going deeper and deeper into riba, even though you probably satisfy your own soul by saying, well, there is nothing else available. There is. Start the business smaller. Make it true. Much smaller. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you probably won't reach your goal for maybe the estimated business plan, but build it into your business plan. I started the business off with £150. I bought a desk, a fax machine, and a chair.